any connections between what you bring to bear in the different intersection narrative you do with the Pink Marine, like all the different men that you met through boot camp and beyond, and just how MLK Jr.'s history sometimes gets obscured, like that it gets used by certain political groups for reasons that usually are just showing that they're empathetic, but they're not really wanting to change the system of
Sure,
oppression.
I can definitely see that parallel. You know, it's you're putting me in with some rare, precious air. He was such a venerable speaker and leader, and I loved everything that he stood for, and I love you know that he I think he's more quotable than RuPaul, and RuPaul is hard to beat on quotes per minute. So you know the things that we that he left us with, you know, tragically, his life was cut just too short because I can only imagine the things that he would have done had he had the chance to even live to a longer period of time. But he left us with such great examples that I think the world will forever strive to live up to his ideals.
Yeah. Well, and the main difference between your memoir and the TV series is the time period. So, right, your boot camp experience starts in 1979.
Yes,
The
and the show
TV show 90s?
we put it up to 1990 because first off, I served at a time of peace. Thank goodness. There's not a Marine out there who isn't praying for peace while preparing for war. So, you know, to lead into what we still hope, who knows, we get a second season from another streamer. That's always a possibility. It's a long shot, but so is writing a book and getting it made into a show. So I'm here for any long shot. The the other thing is Don't Ask, Don't Tell was in 94. So we were hoping to have enough seasons to include that in our storytelling. But the good thing is Marine Corps boot camp doesn't change. It's the I wrote the book as a blueprint for the Hollywood executives that would come and want to make it into a show, because I realized that no one knows what that world looks like. And so I very carefully write in the book every single physical aspect of the rooms, the space, the uniforms, the attitudes, everything specifically to provide that blueprint. So luckily that doesn't change.
Yeah, well, so my cousin Alex, because I was showing him that clip where in the show, um, they're using I think it's a toothbrush. Are they using a toothbrush when they're scrubbing the toilet?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's we that's what we had often. We didn't have giant big scrub brushes. We had those too, but if they were mad at us, we would have to use the others.
Yeah, well, he said, so for those out there, if you don't know, Alex is my cousin who, well, actually, they're his brother's Aaron, and they both served in the special operation forces. And he said that mass punishment is constantly used for the first few weeks. Then things settle down a little as you mess up less and hold each other accountable. He says he doesn't remember scrubbing a toilet, but the Marines probably do. We had to clean our bathroom rooms, stairwells to a very high standard. So,
And we're like six standards above the Army. So unfortunately, we continue to get punished as a group up until the very last day. Although, to his point, yes, less so as a group because you're beginning, as he said, to take responsibility, and then it does taper off. But for in the Marines, the incentive physical training doesn't stop. Graduation day, we were in our alpha uniforms, ready to march out, and still doing bends and thrusts. So it's you have to remember that just like your cousin who served in the incredibly difficult special services and trained in that, we the Marine Corps has 13 weeks to bend you enough to where you will commit murder on command without question or hesitation. So 13 weeks is a short time.
no, that is. Yeah, 3 months in a week. And like what I was curious about is what's interesting is the social and civil like moments. Like when you're starting, you're in the late 70s. So like, you know, I was listening to MLK Jr.'s speech when he was like protesting Vietnam, and like a speech that I don't think gets talked about a lot, but he had a lot of feelings against foreign invasion and against any kind of American militaristic imperialist conquest that like exploited other people. And my question is, how much agency, like say someone is such a huge pacifist, and this is kind of how I weigh in, and I talked to my cousins about this a little, Greg, but how much can you weigh in with individuality? Like if you're a huge social civil rights activist, I would assume that's probably not that popular to talk about in boot camp, but
You can certainly talk about it. Look, like I said, we're all praying for peace. There's no
mm-hmm.
reason that we want to just. There's people that get hard charging up about it. Look, the best examples are those of the Second World War. As soon as Pearl Harbor dropped, thousands of young men rushed to recruiting stations to sign up. It was and we saw the same thing again after 9/11. Again, thousands of young men and women from all over the country went and signed up and said, how can I help? So, obviously we don't want those situations to arise, but you're certainly welcome to share those. But there's a story in the book about the gas chamber, and then we dramatize it in the show in episode 2, I think, at the gas chamber. 2 or 3, the confidence, I'm not sure, 2 or 3. I'm a little sketchy on that. But uh, and he was a conscientious objector. So we treated it a little differently in the show. We had him, sort of have a panic attack, but in the book, it was a conscientious objector, and he's in the gas chamber and he's demanding to call a senator. He's now not wanting to do this. So you sing a song when you march in probably whatever branch of service you're in, which was this is what you asked for. So if you have agreed to enter a doctoral program, you agree to whatever that organization asks you to do. Like I was raised Mormon. And so even though we didn't believe in the church by the time I was a teenager, my mother wanted to get her doctorate degree from Brigham Young University. So the time that we were living there, we had to live under the Mormon guidelines. And that's the agreement that we made. So to your point, we make an agreement with the organization. So if I have agreed to sign my name on an enlistment contract to protect the Constitution and be willing to sacrifice my life to do that, which would be in a violent situation, maybe, then I have to agree to do that. If you're not willing to do that and you know it at the time, then pick another lane.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Read the room is what I guess the best way.
Yeah, read the room. Exactly. Well, like I guess in any, in any organization, but
there could have
there
could have been things about where did you get your doctorate?
Stony Brook on Long Island.
Okay, so Stony Brook is pretty, you don't have to worry about things, but I know that there are I have friends that didn't choose Pepperdine, for instance, young friends when they started college, because they didn't want to go to Bible study every morning. They didn't want that requirement. So they just went somewhere else. But those that are fine with it or embrace it, I have a niece at a Christian preparatory academy right now for high school. She's not Christian. She was uncomfortable in her initial interview, but she's there to take advantage of the wonderful educational opportunity, and she just steers clear of the rest and just does what she has to do in those aspects.
Yeah, you're right.
So you can say the same thing about the military.
Obviously, the culture of an institution.
Yeah. And again, since I didn't know what I was doing, since I accidentally joined the Marine Corps.
Yeah, please let everyone know. There's certain words you heard and you instantly lit up.
I think this t-shirt said, all I heard, there's some swag on my website. All I heard was summer in camp. My best friend called and said he had been at the Air Force Academy and he was leaving to I have no idea what I just did to.
Oh, you're good. You're good. It like auto zoomed. You're fine.
But he called and said that he was going to resign from the Air Force Academy, but finish his military commitment out in the Marine Corps, like his father had been. His father was the highest ranking Marine that there is, and he wanted to honor his father. And so he said, "I'm going to Parris Island for the summer. I'm going to go to boot camp, and I'll be out in time for the fall semester." And all I heard was summer camp, and I thought, I love summer camp, and I love boots. Let's go.